The New York State Athletic Commission have now officially and publicly denied Jarrell Miller his boxing license. So it appears as though the AJ Miller fight is completely off. As far as I know, the B sample results haven't come back yet. So there might still be a chance that this decision by the New York State Athletic Commission is a provisional decision. But the way things are looking, the way Eddie Hearn is talking, it would seem as though this fight is completely dead in the water. Just to give you a little bit more background on the substance, according to a study conducted by, and I'm talking about the substance that Miller tested positive for, obviously. According to a study conducted by a bodybuilding publication, Lift for the World, the substance he's said to have tested positive for increases the body's ability to push harder and longer when it comes to endurance without becoming winded. This can help you not just with cardio/running, but also in the weight room, since you can push out another repetition and work out for longer without becoming tired. And just to reiterate what I said in my previous video about this situation, Jarrell Miller has previously tested positive for a banned substance which was found in a over-the-counter dietary supplement or training supplement, which he took several years back. And it could be the case here again. It isn't necessarily Jarrell Miller injecting something into himself. It could just be one of his pre or post-workout training supplements. And that's why you have to be so careful if you are on VADA testing, because there may be ingredients in your training supplements that are on the banned list. You know, you really have to be very diligent and very professional as soon as you sign that contract for a fight. So, I mean, it's even a possibility that Miller might have been taking this substance a long time ago and they've found trace elements of it in his system. Because remember, Jarrell Miller had refused to enter the WBC clean boxing program, which is why he wasn't ranked by the WBC for so long. And perhaps this is why. Perhaps he knows that VADA are extremely stringent, and maybe some of the supplements he was using and getting benefits from in the gym possibly could have had banned substances in that he wasn't aware of. Do you understand? So he just thought, you know what, better safe than sorry. Let me stay away from the WBC and their clean boxing program for now. And again, it could be a residual from past use. Who knows? I guess there's going to be more information coming out in the following weeks. Now, where do we go from here? Well, Michael Benson, who is a well-known sports journalist, put this tweet out, and it is reportedly a list put together by Anthony Joshua's team of top 5 replacement opponents for Jarrell Miller. At the top, you've got Luis Ortiz, then Adam Kownacki, Manuel Charr, Pulev, and Michael Hunter. I think it's safe to say that very few people want to see AJ versus Manuel Charr. Okay? But let me go through the list one by one in terms of the response from any of these guys. Now, Eddie Hearn has said on several occasions that their number one choice would be Luis Ortiz. And I think Ortiz would also be the number one choice for most fans. Most fans would love to see Anthony Joshua face the real King Kong, as he calls himself. And we could also get a comparison between AJ's performance against Ortiz and Wilder's performance against Ortiz. If AJ was to put in a better performance, of course, there would be excuses. People would say Ortiz didn't have enough time to prepare, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, a result is a result. And if AJ was able to go in there and dispatch of Ortiz in more clinical fashion than Wilder did and have less issues, that would help him build a Wilder fight even more. And that would really strengthen his case. Now, as far as I know, publicly, the Ortiz team haven't said anything about it yet. But again, Hearn says Ortiz is Joshua's first choice, and that's the first name he mentioned. I did check on Luis Ortiz's Twitter page, and I haven't seen him talk about the situation regarding Anthony Joshua since the news broke. Okay, the last tweet from him was on March 25th here. April 9th, actually, my bad. April 9th was where he was talking about Dylan White. Okay, and that was just him, I think, retweeting or whatever somebody else's video and so on and so forth. So in terms of an actual tweet from Luis Ortiz or his team who control his Twitter account, there hasn't been that many tweets recently. So yeah, as far as Luis Ortiz, no public response yet as far as I'm aware to this news that Anthony Joshua was looking for an opponent for June 1st. Who else was on that list? Kownacki. Now, you've got this article here from The Express, which is a online newspaper in the UK, mainstream newspaper. And they're talking about Kownacki, right? And saying how because he's an Al Haymon fighter, it could make the Anthony Joshua fight very difficult to make. And maybe there's some truth to that. It's claiming that Haymon will probably demand an extremely large purse for Kownacki in order to, hand him over to the rival network and the rival promoter. But at the end of the day, if Kownacki was offered a good enough fight package, we've seen Al Haymon fighters previously take fights against AJ, right? We saw Dominic Brazil take a fight against AJ. We saw Charles Martin, when he was IBF champion, take a fight against AJ. But to be fair, that was when Eddie Hearn didn't have a promotional presence in the United States. So he wasn't direct competition for Al Haymon at the time in the US. Now it's changed a little bit. Now Hearn is with DAZN. So maybe Haymon might be a bit more reluctant now to give Kownacki over. But it's not like Kownacki is his number one heavyweight, so we'll see. But as far as I'm aware, there's been no public response from what I've seen from Team Kownacki. So we just have to wait and see if they, come out and say anything, say they're interested in the fight. Watch this space. So the next name was Manuel Charr. Charr has publicly responded. He said that he is in talks with Team Joshua. Eddie Hearn has refuted this. He says, we're not in talks. He says Manuel Charr did contact him, but they're not in negotiations or anything like that. But again, Charr has publicly put his name forward for the Anthony Joshua fight, which is fairly predictable. He spoke quite recently about how he would relish the challenge to step in the ring against an Anthony Joshua or a Tyson Fury for that matter. And again, I think I can speak for the majority of people who in saying that very few of us would like to see Anthony Joshua face Manuel Charr. That to me would be a big disappointment. And to be honest with you, I don't see how Manuel Charr would really work for AJ at MSG. The New York crowd, the American public, they're going to want to see AJ in there against somebody who they've heard of, somebody who one of their American heavyweights, particularly someone like Wilder, has fought, so they can compare AJ's performance against his. And that's why I think Luis Ortiz is so high up the list. And if not someone, of that ilk, then somebody who is maybe a mandatory challenger like Charr Pulev. Michael Hunter is a dark horse, and I'll get onto him in a minute. But speaking of Pulev, unfortunately, Bob Arum, who is now a co-promoter of Charr Pulev, he has ruled Pulev out of fighting AJ on June 1st. And the reason is because of this nonsense, as Bob Arum calls it in this Boxing Social interview, with the journalist that Charr Pulev kissed. Pulev has been suspended by the California Commission. I believe it was the California Commission. I'm pretty sure it is. And Arum kind of insinuates that there might be a problem with Pulev getting a license to fight in New York because of the ongoing issue with the California Commission. So he has ruled Charr Pulev out of facing Anthony Joshua on June 1st. Then finally we have Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter, of course, is a matchroom fighter, and he put this tweet out as soon as the news broke. Call me Eddie. As you can see in response to Eddie Hearn's tweet here. So I'm sure Michael Hunter will be talking to Eddie Hearn, and he will be under consideration for this particular fight. He definitely seems up for it. He's a guy who is a dark horse in the heavyweight division. He's already upset Martin Bakole, who is Anthony Joshua's sparring partner. So, we'll see. We'll see if he ends up in the ring with AJ on June 1st. I think he's probably an outsider, it's fair to say, because, other guys on the list I think will probably have more chance. I think Ortiz, Kownacki, maybe even Charr would have a better chance of fighting AJ than Hunter. Now, there are some people not on the list who have put their name forward and said they'd like to fight AJ. One of them is Ivan Ditchko, of all people. Ivan Ditchko is an unbeaten heavyweight prospect / contender. He's ranked 15 at the moment with the WBA. I'm not sure if that will qualify him for a fight with AJ, but some of you may not realize that Ditchko actually fought AJ in the Olympics. He lost that fight legitimately. I know there were some controversial fights in the Olympics for AJ, like the Erislandy Savon fight and the fight in the final against the Italian, whose name escapes me at the moment, Camarelli, excuse me. So there were some controversial ones, but most people felt the Ditchko fight was a legitimate win. I certainly did for Anthony Joshua. So Ditchko has put his name in the hat. I seriously doubt Ditchko will get the opportunity, but you never know. Boxing is a funny old sport. You've also got Andy Ruiz, who is now signed to Al Haymon. He's thrown his name in the hat for AJ on June 1st. And look, this is not just a situation where we have to consider what Al Haymon is thinking in terms of, does he want to risk one of his fighters against AJ when AJ fights for a rival network with a rival promoter. We also have to consider the risk-reward element on Eddie Hearn's side of the equation, on Eddie Hearn's side of the table, the zone, because they're trying to build AJ as this big star, right? So if they're going to risk him against somebody even the level of a Jarrell Miller, I'm sure they would prefer it to be somebody who isn't with a rival network. So even though AJ might want Luis Ortiz, how keen would Eddie Hearn and DAZN be with putting AJ in with Ortiz? Remember, Ortiz is an Al Haymon fighter. I'm not sure how long his contract is with Haymon. I know he's still somewhat affiliated with this other promotional outfit or managerial outfit he's been with for a very long time. But still, he did sign a contract with Haymon a while ago. And, what is DAZN, Eddie Hearn, and the business people around Joshua going to think about this kind of risk? Yeah, the fighter can want whatever he wants, but the business people might have other ideas. So it may not just be AJ's decision. It could be the business people around him who might not necessarily stop him, but they might make the negotiations seem more difficult than it really is. And I'm not saying that this just goes on with AJ. I think this goes on with many fighters. I think it goes on with Wilder. I think it goes on with Fury. It's not always what the fighters want. It's what the business people around them want. So we'll see. Obviously, I would like this fight to happen. AJ versus Luis Ortiz. And I do think that even though it's a risky fight, it's a fight that would come with a lot of reward in terms of building the Deontay Wilder fight. Because I remember seeing AJ on the Breakfast Club interview, right? Where Charlemagne, and we all know Charlemagne's an idiot, but Charlemagne said to Anthony Joshua, I don't think you can beat Wilder, Fury, or Ortiz. I think all those guys smoke you. And that seems to be the consensus in the United States among the casual fan. And there's even a lot of casual fans in the UK right, who And I'm talking about, the casuals who don't like AJ. Just because you don't like AJ, don't mean you're hardcore. There are plenty of boxing fans in the UK who are casual as hell, but they don't like AJ, and therefore they're siding with Fury, and they're saying Wilder and Fury and Ortiz would all destroy AJ. Well, for AJ to beat Ortiz, he could silence a lot of those people, and he could actually change the minds of a lot of those people. And he could start putting pressure on Deontay Wilder to fight him if he was to beat Luis Ortiz. And I think that might be the route that Anthony Joshua has to go down if he wants that undisputed fight. Try and, because look, Deontay Wilder's fighting one of Anthony Joshua's former opponents. So he can't say, oh, well, he's fighting Wilder's leftovers, because Wilder's fighting his leftovers too. I know with Wilder it's a mandatory, but still. It will give people something to compare when it comes to their performances against the same man. So I think it will be worth it. I think there is some reward there, even though there's quite a lot of risk. It's short notice. Hey, it's short notice for Ortiz too. Anthony Joshua's obviously been training for an orthodox fighter. He'd have to switch it and, start training for a southpaw. Has Anthony Joshua fought a southpaw before? Off the top of my head, I can't think of any southpaws he's fought. He obviously fought Jarrell in the Olympics and at the World Championships or World Games, whatever it's called, as well in the amateurs. And he did get stopped by that was that guy a southpaw? I think he was. Was he called Nista? He got stopped by. So I can't think of many southpaws Anthony Joshua's fought. I'm sure he's sparred some in the gym and what have you, but in the pro ranks, since he's moved up to world level, there was Charles Martin, of course. That was one southpaw, excuse me. And he dispatched of him with, relative ease. But you would imagine Luis Ortiz is a different proposition altogether than a Charles Martin. So we'll see. But drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about the unfolding news at the moment, who you'd like to see Anthony Joshua face, whether you've heard any public announcements from any of these fighters I've talked about, like Ortiz. Again, I've gone to his Twitter page and I don't see anything there by way of response to what's happened. Kownacki, to be fair, I haven't gone to his Twitter page. I could do more research into Kownacki. Charr came out and spoke on it. Pulev has been ruled out by his promoter. Michael Hunter spoke on it. Andy Ruiz, of course. Ivan Ditchko. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the whole situation in the comment section below. It's something I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.